So Simone Biles has responded, okay, and she is basically issuing an apology. And one of the reasons why
Is it sincere though?
she's getting a whole lot
Is
of
it
backlash, a
genuine?
whole lot of hypocrisy. She essentially has exposed herself as somebody that you can't really take seriously, as somebody that probably has a handler, okay,
Possibly.
that is essentially being used to push an agenda that she doesn't understand. So this is what
Is
she had to
this
say.
sincere?
I wanted to
Is
follow
this
up from my
sincere?
last week. I've always believed competitive. This is what she had to say. She said, I wanted to follow up from my last week. I've always believed competitive equity and inclusivity are both essential in sport. Right?
Equity,
so,
bruh.
notice how she doesn't use equality, right? Because she knows that using the word equality would not support having biological boys against girls in sports.
Yeah, bruh. She's being soft in this tweet, bruh. Crazy, bruh. It's a bad start. A bad start. Crazy.
Doesn't adequately balance these important principles.
Equity is worse than equality, bro.
And needed exchanges and balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and needed exchanges, and it didn't help.
There's no care for real equality, bro. Only for special treatments, special rights. It's crazy.
Doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and needed exchanges. Equality, right? Because she knows that
she knows it will piss off the woke mob, the woke LGBTQ plus, the woke trans mob, the woke T mob. She knows it will upset the T mob. She knows it will anger the T mob.
The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles.
It's crazy.
Equality, right? Because she knows that using the word equality would not support having biological boys competing girls in sports. The current system doesn't adequately balance these important principles, which often leads to frustration and heated exchanges. And it didn't help for me to get personal with Riley, which I apologize for. These are sensitive, complicated issues that I truly don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. No, that's actually what you're doing. Right? That's exactly what you're doing. You may not be aware that that's what you're doing, but that is what you're doing. Okay. My objection is to singling out children. We don't have the answers or solutions to, but I believe it starts with empathy and respect. I was not advocating for policies that compromise fairness in women's sports. No, that's actually what you're doing. Right? That's exactly what you're doing. You may not have been aware that that's what you're doing, but that is what you're doing. Okay. My objection is to singling out children for public scrutiny in ways that feel personal and harmful. AKA, you're not supposed to be able to criticize trans athletes, right? You're not supposed to say anything about them, okay? You're not supposed to say, hey, this is not fair, right? Or that this shouldn't be allowed. Okay, no, you can't do that, right? You have to just sit silently.
Or teen athletes.
Not say anything.
In this case, it was a high school softball team. A women's high school softball team. Yeah, you cannot even just normally criticize teen athletes if there's something wrong or something that is truly deserving of criticism or critique or bro. It is really crazy. It is really goofy, bro. So you can't say anything if you see something that is wrong. Truly, indisputably. You cannot hold people accountable or say what the reality is or call a spade a spade. It isn't about being harsh or too harsh or abusive or mistreating of people. It is about being all the way real and honest and calling a spade a spade. Yo, people really have gotten too soft, yo. It is a problem, bro. This problem needs to be eradicated. This social malady of softness, weakness, wokeness, it must be eradicated.
Loud, you can't do that, right? You have to just sit silently and just, not
Suppress.
say anything. And girls lose out on opportunities.
Yep. Unbelievable.
Individual athletes, especially kids,
Just
you can't do that, right? You have to just sit
permit
silently
the erosion of females' rights to happen, to continue.
Should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system. They have no athletes, right? You're not supposed to say anything about them, okay? You're not supposed to say, hey, this is not fair, right? Or that this shouldn't be allowed. Okay, no, you can't do that, right? You have to just sit silently and just, not say anything as girls lose out on opportunities. Individual
Shameful.
Athletes, especially kids,
Shameful.
should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to comfort. They have no control over. I believe
softness, Simone, Biles.
Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility
this
to
is
come
craziness,
up
bro.
loud. You can't do that, right? You have to just sit silently and just, not say anything as girls lose out on opportunities.
Garbage.
Individual athletes, especially kids, should never be the focus of criticism of a flawed system they have no control over. I believe sports organizations have a responsibility to come up with rules supporting inclusion while maintaining fair competition. We all want a future for sport that is fair, inclusive, and respectful. XOXO Simone. Yeah, so again, here's what Simone Biles doesn't realize, because again, she's very ignorant on this topic. Okay? The individuals that she's trying so hard to defend, right? She's bending over
Caping hard for it. Bars. Yeah. That is an apropos term to use for this, in this case, because Simone is a gymnast. She does gymnastics, physical gymnastics. Bro. Mental gymnastics. That is a perfect term, a befitting term for this situation, bro, because Simone is a gymnast, a professional gymnast, a sublime gymnast, a proficient gymnast, an adept gymnast. At that, a proficient gymnast, an adept gymnast. At that word, she is an adept gymnast. At that word.
On this topic, okay? The individuals that she's trying so hard to defend, right? She's bending over backwards, doing gymnastics, okay? Mental gymnastics here to defend, don't want what she's advocating for, right? In her original post, she claimed that, hey, people like rileygaines should be fighting for trans athletes to be able to compete amongst themselves, right? To have a trans category. But they don't want that, right? They don't want fairness in sports, okay?
The radicals.
There is no solution. There is no compromise that these people are willing to accept.
Are amenable to.
Simone does not understand. That's what she doesn't realize. She keeps coming out here and trying to pretend as if, we can achieve equity and inclusivity, and that's what I want. I just want inclusivity. Listen.
BS, rubbish, drivel.
People, okay, the people that you're trying to defend,
pick, swallow.
They don't want fairness in sports. You cannot have equity and inclusivity in sports while also at the same time having fairness, right?
Contradictory. They don't mesh.
That's why Simone Biles needs to have somebody sit down with her and explain this stuff. I mean, preferably a strong, masculine man. And that's why I got questions. Right? Where's her husband? Right? Where is
her NFL husband?
Why is her husband not sitting this woman down and explaining to her why she's wrong and why she clearly is uninformed and
off base,
not thinking correctly when it comes to this topic? Well,
illogical.
Again, this is what happens when you don't have strong male leadership. Because strong male leadership would not have allowed this post to be made in the first place.
This nonsense, goofiness, crappiness.
A strong male would have said, no, I don't think you
misbehavior.
Right? I don't think that you should be fighting these battles. But hey, I don't know. I have no clue what's going on in her household, whether or not her husband was aware. I'll just say that in the ideal situation, this doesn't happen at all because, again, you have a strong husband, a strong
to
man
check you,
that says, no, you shouldn't put this out, right? This is not
to talk sense into you, to talk you off the cliff.
Let's not do
Logical.
But hey, here we are, okay? Simone Biles issuing what appears to be an apology. Okay, she's not saying I'm sorry, but she says, you know, she apologized.
She's doing the elongated.
But who knows?
She's
this is not a good look for us. But let's not do this. But hey, here we are. Okay, Simone Biles issuing what appears to be an apology.
She's not doing
okay, she's
a
not
direct
saying, I'm sorry,
apology.
Says, you know, she apologized for getting personal with rileygaines, basically saying she looks like a man. But who knows? The apology. She's not saying I'm sorry, but she says, you know, she apologized for getting personal with rileygaines, basically saying she looks like a man. But who knows? The apology.
If it is sincere that she is sorry for doing that, for getting personal, salute. But again, it isn't enough. You have to prove in your actions. Prove in your actions you've changed.
She's not saying I'm sorry, but she says, you know, she apologized for getting personal with rileygaines, basically saying she looks like a man. But who knows? The apology might not be enough because people in the comment section don't seem to.
That's for sure not enough.
Simone's apology.
For sure not enough.
This person, real here David says, any girl sport that includes males will always be
yes.
the rights
Period.
and feelings of
End
girls.
of discussion.
But you've shown your true colors. You are no girl, that's for sure.
Exactly.